Well, hello, everybody. Today we have with us Tom DiBello, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Great Neighborhoods here in Covington, and Loren Wolff, who's their board chair. Thank you both for giving me some of your time today.
Thanks for having
us.
You bet. So, well, Tom, you're well known in the community as being the leader of the Center for Great Neighborhoods. Maybe if you could take a moment and share with us some of your story and background, and then also maybe an update on the Center for Great Neighborhoods. And then I know, Loren, you can add as well as your perspective of a board chair.
Great. Well, I've been in Covington since 1976. I came to the then Center for Covington Community Center in 1976 as a VISTA volunteer. And I was supposed to stay for a year, do my term, and then go back to Philadelphia. And of course, I'm still here. So, and I've spent my whole 44 years here, plus working on 45, at the Covington Community Center, later to become the Center for Great Neighborhoods. So it's been a labor of love, and I grew really attached to the community. Met my wife here, Catherine, who works for the health department, and raised 3 kids. So that's a little bit about me. I didn't plan on staying, but it all worked out. And center, yeah, I'd like to share a little bit about the center. We're kind of Covington's best kept secret, or Northern Kentucky's best kept secret. I think we're behind the scenes in a lot of situations. And the center, the folks may not know that the Covington Community Center was founded by 2 of our local longtime religious institutions, Trinity Episcopal Church and Mother of God Catholic Church. And each of those churches started outreach programs and organizations that eventually merged and formed the Covington Community Center. And then in 2005, we changed our name to the Center for Great Neighborhoods. And from the onset of our history, we really have had kind of 2 particular pillars, values, if you will. One around the importance of community voice, and also in the power of resident and volunteer action. So those are 2 things that, regardless of the activities, the programs, the initiatives that we've been a part of throughout our history, those 2 twin values have always been behind everything that we do.
That's great. And I know you could list literally for probably hours about both programs you've had, programs you're working through, and then aspirational programs that are out there. But if there were, 1 or 2 key programs or functions day to day that you do today, what would those surround?
Sure. And I would draw folks' attention to, if you're interested in the breadth of what we do, you can get on our website and or our Facebook page, and we have our annual report there as well, and you can kind of learn about the different dimensions of the center. But I wanted to, and Loren and I talked a little bit about this the other day. There's a couple of things that I would want to raise up, and one of those, everybody may know that we do a lot of, we're a nonprofit real estate development corporation, and we do both commercial as well as residential. And we've done 65 units of both residential and commercial, mostly in the west side in Covington, which is where we're situated here. And in recent years, we've been doing a lot of work around the Martin Luther King Boulevard corridor. So we've got a couple of projects, and I know some of you are aware of it and you're waiting anxiously for it, but at 302 West MLK, we're putting the finishing touches on what will soon be a Mexican restaurant. It's going to add a real dimension to the walkability and to the amenities in this area. And I'm hoping that some of the county folks will come on down. And
I'll be there.
Yeah, right. And, it's been delayed and there's been all kinds of issues. And we've got the headwind of COVID, but we're persevering and moving forward. So we expect to be having an opening, a soft opening sometime in the fall, late fall. And then eventually the restaurant will open to the public, and may have to do takeout in the beginning, but we're pretty excited about that. And then we have a couple of residential properties right now that we're going to be starting within the month, and we expect completion sometime in 2021, probably around March or April. We expect completed at 310 West Robbins, and then right here in our backyard is 1230 Lee Street, right near the cemetery. So both of those will be residential home ownership opportunities.
And most of your programs, essentially residential side too, are designed to help someone kind of fill that first gap of how to get into their own home and then stay there, right? So you're developing home ownership there.
Yeah, because our mission is around building community and neighborhood revitalization, we kind of take a mixed income approach to our real estate. So we're the belief that there needs to be, it's important to have housing products for all incomes. So we've done market rate, we've done moderate income housing, and we have affordable rental units as well. So we're a capital A affordable based on income. And the other thing I'd like to spend a couple seconds talking about is we have community engagement is very important to us, and we have an initiative right now that's a partnership we have with the Mayerson Foundation that we call Covington Leads. And this is a leadership development program, and we're reaching out, we're targeting people who often aren't asked to be involved or to lead. So we're trying to reach the harder to reach folks that aren't often involved in making decisions. And the concept that we have, again, based on our own philosophy and our own mission, sort of a belief that everybody has a talent and gift. So we're really helping them identify their strengths, and then they get to learn a lot about leadership skills and project management and so forth. And then they actually take on a project of their choosing where they get to practice the skills. And these are folks in Covington from all different neighborhoods. But again, we're really reaching into diversity and folks that aren't typically at the table. And then finally, we have something we're very excited about that will be, we've launched it in terms of inviting the community to join us in kind of a collaboration. We're calling this Covington Challenge. And the idea there is to address two pressing community needs. How do we create a racially equitable community? And also, how do we connect with one another as residents during this time of COVID when we really need to be physically distant? How do we address those challenges? And we're inviting folks to, we'll have some funds available to help with small grants, but we really want to partner and collaborate. So we're not just going to put the money out there and just ask people to do it. So we really would like people to respond, and we've gotten some responses already, but we're looking forward to the response we get from the community.
And both those two programs really kind of speak to what is the heart and the soul of the center. How I got involved in the center is sort of a classic story. I moved here in 2007, and we were kind of entering into the height of the foreclosure crisis. And my husband, Ben, and I, who had our own law practice at the time, were doing bankruptcy and consumer defense, so foreclosure defense. And I don't even remember how, but I met Dan Petronio, and the center was just convening a group, and it was called the Foreclosure Task Force. And it was just local banks, other sort of people working in that field like myself, and the idea was we just met regularly and tried to come up with community solutions and supporting. So you had banks at the table, you had consumer attorneys. You had a good group of folks who just met monthly and worked on solving this problem that was occurring, and eventually it just kind of went away. But that's really what the center does best, is addressing a need and figuring out how to bring people together to solve the problem. What I always tell people is, call the center. If somebody asks or has an idea, just call the center. If nothing else, someone there will help you will bounce the idea around with you, point you in a right direction. Sometimes the center might take the lead and play a big role in the project, but I promise you there's no such thing as a stupid idea or a problem too small or too big that the center won't think about with you and look for ways to address it.
Well, it's obvious, especially in today's world, the convening and giving people an opportunity to have a voice, as well as just sit down and talk to others about either ideas they may or may not agree on, is really needed, right? I mean, not just in Covington. We know that's needed in the country as a whole, and we can work on that locally. And you guys are doing a great job. You're walking the walk for sure. Speak to the issue of COVID. How is this issue of giving people a voice, letting people be heard? We've got a lot of issues going on in 2020, not just COVID, but can you point out an area that you're, in addition to this effort of diversity and that area, is that a key discussion you're having now, or what are some of the other areas that are COVID related that you see this change and what you had to do adapt to in this year?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, those two initiatives that I mentioned, the motivation we have for those, as well as other things that we're attempting to do, is to keep people connected and not become isolated. Yeah. And it's about social connection, but also, to be honest with you, our mission is part of the important work we do is strengthening the fabric of community so that neighbors are helping neighbors. And although there are plenty of institutions out there for help, people are always better off, and residents are always better off when they know they can count on their neighbors. So we really want to do more work around that, and that's both a current piece of work, but we're anticipating more. And I think the other thing that we're anticipating is, frankly, in terms of our real estate development work, I mentioned to you that we see ourselves as always having products, if you will, for the breadth of, the diversity of income that's out there. But we know that there's going to be folks struggling with income issues, and that we're really going to need to look at affordability and make sure that, even folks that work at restaurants that have struggled, they're going to need decent apartments and houses. And that we expect to take on that challenge and to up the scale of what we do. That's something that's really critical to us.
Well, and I think too, I see it happening, and it is that, we're going to be living in some kind of COVID environment for at least another year, and I think what we'll see is that the center will continue to kind of innovate and think of ways, unique ways to keep bringing us together, mm-hmm. and keep finding ways to keep sort of these community projects going. I mean, people still have these ideas and see needs in their neighborhoods and their communities. And, I want people to know that the center's still there. And, that idea of just pick up the phone, call somebody at the center, call Tom, call Kate, call somebody. And I think that'll still exist. And the way I see the staff sort of digging in and learning and looking for ways to innovate, it's going to continue. And they're just so focused on how can we do this in a COVID environment, and you're still going to have that resource. So they're still going to be there to help you think it through. And it might just look a little different and be a little bit of a different conversation, but we can still do all these things that we want to do in our neighborhoods and our communities. We can keep doing these things despite kind of the restrictions we're dealing with. And I think that's what the center's always been about, and it's never more apparent than now. We'll figure it out.
Well, yeah, that positive attitude comes through very clearly from you all and everybody who's part of the center. How roughly, Tom or Loren, in a given year, how many individuals would you typically connect with, residentially, project-wise? How many clients, if you will, would you typically work with?
Well, that's an interesting, it's a dilemma and a dynamic with us. We of course, report to funders, and we usually, in terms of direct contact with an individual, about 3,000 folks.
Okay.
But we also do a lot of work in community, and we know we have influence, and we touch the lives of many more thousands in that regard. So, you know, we're built that way, frankly, by design, with our community development approach and with a small staff. We build ourselves to have broad influence, and to be small, to have a big impact, but still be small. And that's by design, by intention.
Well, one of the things is great is, you know, we've got a great city in the city of Covington. You guys are a great part of that, and obviously making Kenton County even stronger. But as the best kept secret, you've also got this great facility that's been open for a few years now down the road from the county government center, the old Hellman building, and you're still, that's an exciting project in and of itself. It only took a few years, right, Tom?
Yeah.
And, but that's that, when you say the center, that's the home that all this magic can happen at. And how's that operated during COVID?
You know, like other institutions, we lost some of our revenue in terms of rents and things like that. But in some of the residential rental units we have, also we've worked with the tenants because they've struggled, and, you know, we're not going to throw people out on the street. So, but we're managing. And, you know, that was something, again, by design, the opportunity for us to have an economic development impact in this community with this building, and a cultural and community impact, but also be able to give ourselves a financial base where we can operate. That was important. So going forward, we expect that to work out for us. We're doing okay.
That's great. Well, and in a final comment from either individually or both of you, if there was one thing you wish that people knew about the center and to take away from this conversation, what would it be?
I'll start, because I've already said it a couple of times, but I'm gonna take up the opportunity to repeat myself and say, just call. I mean, if you have an idea or you see a community need, no matter how small or big, just pick up the phone and call someone at the center. You know, you'll have someone who will listen and think about the problem with you, and chances are there might be somebody working on it. And you know, the center's there, they're working hard, and so call.
That's a good message. I'll just add one other thing. Since she did a good job of saying that, I'll say, I think we do have a situation at the center where we're often perceived, because we're helping groups get things done, we're not always perceived as needing help ourselves, and we need community support. So I would invite folks to think about the center when you're making your charitable giving plans. It's important.
That's fair enough. Well, guys, thanks so much for what you're doing. I know, Loren, you're now local, right? So you've been here for more than a couple of years, and we always give you the great Covington, Kenton County hug, and now your family. But Tom, again, thank you for the decades of great, really selfless work you put in the organization as well. So, and again, thank you guys for the time today.
Thanks, Judge. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It was great. Take care.